My name is Eli Kolbeck, 33 years old from rural Wisconsin, Monroe County. 16 years after I swore I'd never return, a single voicemail dragged me back to the Kolbeck farm. My cousin was hiding, hunted by the Beckers, a family known for violence. But when blood calls, you answer. I thought I left the past behind. I was dead wrong. Before we dive into this story of family secrets, betrayal, and blood-soaked revenge, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale from the dark side of the backwoods. Now, let me tell you what dragged me back to the Kolbeck farm after 16 years. I was just about to delete it. A Wisconsin area code, 608, flashed on my phone screen like some ghost from another life. I hadn't heard from anyone back home in over 16 years. And frankly, I liked it that way. I was standing in my kitchen in Minneapolis, halfway through a leftover sandwich, when the message came in. I let it go to voicemail. I didn't even check it until hours later, just before bed, when I was scrolling through my call log, debating whether to block the number or not. Curiosity won. The voice was cracked, worn down like gravel on a rural road. But I knew it immediately. Eli. It's Aunt Marlene. I know it's been a long time, honey, but, Travis. Travis is in trouble. Bad trouble. We don't know what to do. We need your help. Please. Call me back. Please. That was it. No details. No explanation. Just panic, wrapped in that same trembling voice I remembered from Christmas mornings and burned casseroles. I played it again. And again. Travis. My cousin. The same one who used to call me spineless when I refused to fight back. Who once locked me in the root cellar for an entire afternoon while the rest of the family drank and laughed, pretending not to hear me scream. He was the favorite. Always had been. Son of Dale, the angriest Kolbeck of them all. I'd left that farm bloody and broken at 17, told them they'd never see me again, and I meant it. So why now? Why me? I poured a glass of whiskey, stared out at the cold Minneapolis skyline, and tried to imagine any scenario where I'd actually want to go back to Monroe County. Nothing came, but then I thought about the tone in Marlene's voice. It wasn't just fear. It was desperation, and I knew that woman. She'd never begged before. I sat down, pulled up Google Maps, and traced the roads from here to the Kolbeck farm, County Road G, past Wilton, straight through a piece of land that time had forgotten. 5 hours, give or take. By midnight, I'd packed a duffel bag. By 12:30, I was on I-94, heading east through the dark. I told myself I was just going to see what was going on. That I wasn't stepping back into the past, I was just answering a call, like any decent man might, but in the pit of my gut, I knew it was more than that. Some things don't stay buried. Some names, Kolbeck, for instance, have a way of crawling back out of the dirt, dragging your history with them. I didn't know what kind of trouble Travis was in, but if the Beckers were involved, and I had a sinking feeling they were, then trouble might be an understatement. The voicemail had only lasted 22 seconds. But it was enough to change everything, and I hadn't even hit the county line yet. The further I drove, the quieter the world became. City lights gave way to endless fields, snow-dusted and bare, stretching out like forgotten promises. By the time I crossed into Monroe County, the radio was off, my phone was silent, and my jaw ached from clenching. Every mile back felt like a thread unraveling inside me. It was nearly dawn when I turned off County Road G onto the old gravel drive. The Kolbeck farm looked worse than I remembered, like time had dragged its nails across every surface and then walked away. The barn was leaning, the silo cracked. One of the old sheds had collapsed under its own weight. The paint on the farmhouse had long since given up, now just gray wood beneath a sagging porch roof. I killed the engine and sat there for a minute. Nothing moved, no sign of Aunt Marlene. No lights in the windows. I almost turned the key again and backed out. But something made me open the door instead. The gravel crunched under my boots like bones snapping in frost. The air smelled of manure, mildew, and something older, something like rot. I stepped up to the porch. The same warped plank on the third step creaked just like it used to. I could almost hear Dale yelling at me for stepping too loud, as if the house itself was something sacred. Before I could knock, the screen door creaked open. Marlene stood there, wrapped in a threadbare cardigan, cigarette trembling in her fingers. Her eyes were sunken, rimmed red. Her once-dyed hair now hung in dull gray streaks. "Eli," she said, voice cracking. I nodded. "Aunt March," she opened her arms like she wanted to hug me, then thought better of it. "You look older." "So do you." She gave a dry laugh and stepped aside. "Come in. It's cold as hell out." The inside of the house smelled like mold, boiled coffee, and sadness. The kitchen hadn't changed, same cracked linoleum, same crooked ceiling fan, but everything felt smaller, like the place had shrunk without me in it. "Where's Travis?" I asked. "In the barn. South End. He's not doing good." "Is he hurt?" She hesitated. "More like hunted." I turned to her sharply. "Becker's?" She flinched at the name. "They're saying he took something. Money. Maybe more. Now they want payback. Said they're coming for him tonight." I ran a hand through my hair. "And you thought calling the outcast would fix it? You're the only one left, Eli. Everyone else is dead, gone, or scared. You always had more fight in you than the rest of them put together." I didn't answer. I just looked out the kitchen window. The sun was rising, casting a weak orange glow over the frost-covered fields. Same land. Same ghosts, different war. Whatever unfinished business I'd left behind wasn't buried, it had just been waiting. The barn hadn't changed much, at least, not on the outside. The old red paint had faded to rust, and a sagging gutter hung like a broken limb. But the bones were still there, sturdy in that stubborn Kolbeck way. I slipped inside through the side door, ducking under a low beam, and took in the dim interior. Dust hung thick in the shafts of light cutting through the cracked boards. Everything smelled of hay, rusted tools, and stale animal feed. "Travis?" I called. Nothing. I moved deeper, past the corroded milking stalls, stepping carefully over a rusted pitchfork and a pile of moldy feed bags. I stopped at the ladder leading up to the hayloft. "I know you're up there," I said. I heard the boards creak. A beat. Then a cough, followed by, "Well, you always were the smart one." I climbed slowly, every step groaning under my weight. When I reached the top, I found Travis sitting with his back against a hay bale, a hunting rifle across his lap, and a bottle of Old Crow at his feet. His lip was split. His left eye swollen. One boot was off, revealing a sock stained with dried blood. He looked like hell. "Did the Beckers do that?" I asked. "Some of it," he muttered. "Some of it was just me being stupid." I stood a few feet away, arms crossed. "You want to tell me what you did?" He took a swig from the bottle and winced. "We were drunk. Me, Charlie Becker, and his cousin Mick. Playing poker. Talked about old stories, got to bragging about the old man's stash. Said his dad kept cash locked in the shed, stuff from the logging gigs they never report." "You robbed them?" "Not robbed," he said defensively. "Borrowed. They were passed out cold. I took $4,000. Figured they'd never notice." I stared at him. "You took $4,000 from Caleb Becker's shed." "5, actually," he corrected. "Found an extra envelope." "You absolute idiot." He laughed bitterly. "Yeah, well. Guess stupidity runs in the bloodline." I shook my head. "Why didn't you run?" "I was going to. Had the truck packed and everything. But Marlene started crying. Said she couldn't handle losing another one of us. So I stayed." I looked down at the rifle in his lap. "And now what? You gonna shoot your way out when they show?" "If I have to. Against the Beckers? You'll be dead before you hit the ground." He leaned forward, bloodshot eyes meeting mine. Then why are you here, Eli? You came all this way just to scold me. I didn't answer right away. I wanted to tell him I came because I owed Marlene. Or because I hated unfinished business. But the truth was simpler, and more dangerous, because I still had Kolbeck blood in my veins, and sometimes blood demands things logic can't explain. I took a breath. You have any traps on this place? He grinned. A few ideas. Good. We've got until sundown. Travis and I sat on overturned buckets in the milking shed as the late morning sun tried and failed to warm the icy air inside. He was wrapping his ankle with an old bandage, while I stared at the wall, remembering a night long ago when Dale had backhanded me into it just for dropping a milk pail. You think they're really coming? Travis asked, voice low. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I let the question settle in the cold air and forced myself to say the name out loud. The Beckers don't make threats. They make examples. Travis paused. You still remember what happened to the Walsh boy? Yeah, I said grimly. He swiped a deer stand off their land. They found him a week later in a ditch, 2 fingers missing. Travis let out a shaky breath. The thing people never understood about the Beckers, I continued, is that they don't care about money. They care about pride. About territory. You didn't just take $5,000, you humiliated them. He went quiet after that. A fly buzzed somewhere near the window, the only sound in the stillness. I stood up and walked to the doorway, staring out across the frostbitten fields. The land was empty, quiet. But it wouldn't stay that way. They'll come at night, I said. Same as always. Fast, mean, no warnings. You think it's just Caleb and his boys? I shook my head. Could be more. Wayne. Ross. Maybe even that quiet one, Nolan. Doesn't matter. One Becker is bad. A pack of them. Travis stood and winced, testing his ankle. We could still run. No, I said sharply. That's not how this ends. You run, they'll chase you. Burn this place down with Marlene in it. So what then? We just hole up and hope we get lucky. I turned back to him. No. We make it clear this place still has teeth. We remind them the Kolbecks aren't dead yet. Travis looked at me for a long time. Didn't think you'd come back. Thought we broke you back then. You did, I said. But the thing about broken things, they come back sharper. We spent the next hour walking the property, cataloging everything we could use: barbed wire, old fencing, scrap metal, even a busted-out tractor battery that could still throw a spark. The place wasn't much, but it had bones. And bones meant we could build. Marlene brought us coffee around noon, her hands shaking. They really coming? She asked. I looked her in the eye. Yes. She nodded once and didn't ask again. Later, when Travis dozed off in the hayloft, I sat in the old swing by the porch, shotgun across my lap. I stared into the woods past the field, where shadows already stretched longer than they should. This was where it happened, where the Kolbecks either stood tall, or finally fell. By late afternoon, the sun hung low and sour in the sky, bleeding orange over the skeletal trees. The kind of light that makes everything feel older, haunted. The kind of light that lets you know night isn't far. We didn't speak much. There wasn't time, and honestly, there wasn't much to say. Every word felt like it had already been said years ago, shouted through doors and fists in cold winters on this cursed land. Instead, we got to work. First, the perimeter. I walked the edge of the property while Travis limped along beside me, marking out the low points in the fence line and the paths the Beckers were most likely to take. Caleb might be many things: violent, cruel, paranoid, but he wasn't stupid. He'd look for the blind spots. We rigged up a tripwire across the main gravel path using fishing line and an old cowbell. Loud, but not lethal. It was just meant to give us 10 seconds notice, 10 seconds that could mean the difference between breathing and bleeding. Next, the barn. Travis had hidden a few crates of old gear in the loft, stuff Dale had buried back when the family still believed in defending their land. A couple hunting rifles, a box of rusted nails, 2 flashlights that flickered when you shook them, and a shotgun I recognized instantly, my father's. I ran my hand along the barrel. Dented, scratched, but still solid. I hadn't seen it since the day he vanished. You want it? Travis asked, voice cautious. I nodded and slung it over my shoulder. Back in the workshop, we rigged up the old tractor battery to a metal rod and a steel plate, creating a crude but effective electric snare. If someone touched it, they'd feel it in their teeth. Not lethal. Just painful. And psychological pain, that was worth gold right now. We nailed boards over the weakest barn windows, stacked hay bales to slow bullets, and buried broken glass around the south side, where the floodlights wouldn't reach. We were betting they'd come from the tree line, where the shadows ran deepest. Every few minutes, we'd stop and listen. Nothing yet, but I could feel them coming. Like the land itself was tensing up. Like the bones of this farm remembered what it meant to be prey. You scared? Travis asked me while twisting a wire trap into place. Terrified, I admitted. He grinned. Good. Means we might survive. By the time night finally came, the farm looked like a relic of some ancient war. But it wasn't strong. It wasn't fortified like a fortress. It was patched together with rot, memory, and desperation. As I stood on the porch with the shotgun across my knees, the last bit of sun dropped below the horizon, and the wind went still. That silence. It wasn't peace, it was the kind of silence that meant wolves were near, waiting, watching, and ready to tear into the past. The first sign they were coming was the wind dying. Everything went still. Not a rustle, not a creak. Just the distant hum of old floodlights casting pale yellow halos over the Kolbeck fields, and the metallic tick of my father's shotgun cooling across my lap. Travis was crouched behind the hay bales near the barn's southern wall, cradling his hunting rifle with stiff fingers. His ankle was wrapped tight, but he moved like it hurt with every breath. I was posted on the porch roof, crouched low beneath the overhang. I could see the gravel road and part of the tree lean. Then came the crunch, gravel under tires, 3 trucks, lights off, crawling down the path like predators in tall grass. I slid the safety off the shotgun. They're here, I whispered into the walkie Travis had found in the workshop. The thing crackled like static from another century, but he heard me. The truck stopped just beyond the tripwire, for doors opened, 5 shadows stepped out, the Becker boys. Even from this distance, I could tell which one was Caleb. Tall, broad-shouldered, beard like a rusted saw blade. He moved with the calm of someone who'd hurt people before and liked it. Kolbeck's. Caleb's voice echoed across the frostbitten field. We came for what's ours. Travis clicked on the floodlights. The whole yard lit up in an instant, blinding whitewashing over their silhouettes. Caleb shielded his eyes, then smiled. You planning to blind us to death? No, I said, standing slowly, shotgun raised. Just wanted you to see where your bodies will land. Wayne Becker laughed. You brought the runt back from the city. That's your plan. You've got one shot, I called out. Leave now. Or don't leave at all. A long silence, then Caleb cocked his head. Boys. Wayne and Ross Becker raised their rifles. Travis fired first. His shot caught the edge of Wayne's truck mirror and shattered it. The noise cracked across the land like a whip, and then everything broke loose. Gunfire echoed across the fields. I ducked behind the chimney and returned fire. A slug hit the porch beam beside my knee, spraying wood shards across my jeans. They advanced quickly. Ross darted left, trying to flank us near the barn. Travis saw it coming and lobbed a chunk of broken concrete. It missed, but Ross tripped, firing a wild shot that punched through a milk can near the gate. One of the tripwires snapped. The cowbell clanged like a funeral bell. Then, silence. I peeked out from cover. Wayne was down. Hit, maybe unconscious. Caleb knelt beside him, blood on his hands. Travis limped forward, gun aimed. Call it off, Caleb. Caleb glared at him, hate burning behind his eyes. You're not worth it. He stood, grabbed Wayne under the arms, and backed toward the truck. Ross followed, limping, glaring. They didn't say another word. The trucks turned, and then they were gone. The silence returned, but it wasn't peace, it was the calm before whatever came next. We didn't sleep. Wayne had bled on Kolbeck soil. That alone was enough to guarantee this wasn't over. The Beckers didn't back down, they regrouped. And when they came again, they'd be ready to kill, not just scare. So we made a decision, one that couldn't be undone. We take it to them, Travis said, his voice hoarse and cold. We finish it before they come back to finish us. He wasn't asking for permission. And I wasn't offering resistance. I'd already crossed a line the second I raised my father's shotgun in defense of a family I once swore off. Might as well burn the whole thing down. By dawn, we had the truck packed, 3 full cans of kerosene, the busted chainsaw Dale had welded back in '03, and enough homemade Molotovs to make someone very sorry. The air was bitter, sharp with that early winter bite that carried the scent of smoke for miles. The Becker land sat north of town, nestled in the woods near Wildcat Mountain, far enough out that you wouldn't stumble onto it unless you meant to. Everyone knew they had their own rules up there. The law didn't cross the fence line, and neither did common sense, but we weren't bringing either of those with us. We parked half a mile out and hiked the rest, ducking through the frost-covered pine boughs like ghosts. I hadn't been there in years, but the place hadn't changed. 3 metal sheds, a fuel tank, and that crooked little shack they called a cabin. There was a watchtower now, built from scrap wood and arrogance. Empty, thankfully. Travis glanced at me. You sure? No, I said. Light it anyway. He tossed the first Molotov. It arced through the gray morning and smashed against the side of the central shed, erupting into flames with a roar that made the crows scatter. We moved fast. I soaked the woodpile with kerosene, then kicked over a lantern. Fire bloomed like a living thing, climbing fast, licking at the edges of Becker pride. Travis took the chainsaw to the fuel tank supports while I smashed windows and stuffed lit rags through the holes. The fire spread like it had been waiting years to burn, and maybe it had. We didn't stick around. We left before they could catch us, smoke curling behind us in thick black ropes, painting a warning across the sky. Back at the Kolbeck farm, we sat on the porch in silence, watching the horizon. They'll come for us now, Travis said. They would have come either way. He looked at me. We just made it worse. No, I said, watching the smoke drift. We made it fair. For the first time in a long time, the land felt alive again. Violent, raw, but honest. We hadn't just fought back, we'd sent a message. The Kolbecks weren't running anymore. The fire took most of the day to die. We didn't go back to look at the wreckage, didn't need to. Word traveled fast in Monroe County. By sundown, folks were already whispering about black smoke rising above Wildcat Ridge, about the Beckers finally being brought to heel. Some people said the lightning got it. Others said the county was cleaning out fire hazards. Nobody asked too many questions. That was how things worked out here. People didn't want truth. They wanted distance, but I knew better. The Becker camp wasn't just a burned site. It was a message. And messages like that didn't disappear. They left scorched marks on the land. And on the people who lit the match. At the Kolbeck farm, there was a strange quiet. Not the eerie kind like before, when we were waiting for death to show up on 4 wheels. This was different. This quiet had weight. We didn't speak much those first few days. Travis spent most of his time in the barn, limping from stall to stall, pretending to fix things that couldn't be fixed. I stayed close to the house, cleaning the porch, repairing a window frame I'd shattered during the standoff. Marlene cooked too much and smoked even more. None of us really knew how to act. We'd won. But we didn't feel like victors. Then, 3 days later, a letter arrived. No return address. Just a single piece of paper folded inside. It read, "You burned it. But you didn't end it." See, Travis read it 3 times before passing it to me. His hands were shaking. "Think it's real?" he asked. I nodded. "Caleb's not done." He's licking his wounds. Probably watching from the woods, waiting to strike again. Let him watch, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. The truth was, we were exposed. We had no allies, no backup. If Caleb wanted to drag this into a longer war, he could, and part of me wondered if Travis had already made some other mistake I didn't know about. He had a way of attracting fire, then pretending he wasn't warm. That night, we sat around the kitchen table, the three of us. Marlene poured coffee none of us touched. We can't keep living like this, she said finally. I looked at Travis. Then maybe you tell me the rest of it. He didn't meet my eyes. I took more than cash, he admitted. There was a ledger. The Becker camp wasn't just a burned site. It was a message. And messages like that didn't disappear. They left scorched marks on the land. And on the people who lit the match. At the Kolbeck farm, there was a strange quiet. Not the eerie kind like before, when we were waiting for death to show up on four wheels. This was different. This quiet had weight. We didn't speak much those first few days. Travis spent most of his time in the barn, limping from stall to stall, pretending to fix things that couldn't be fixed. I stayed close to the house, cleaning the porch, repairing a window frame I'd shattered during the standoff. Marlene cooked too much and smoked even more. None of us really knew how to act. We'd won. But we didn't feel like victors. Then, 3 days later, a letter arrived, no return address. Just a single piece of paper folded inside. It read, "You burned it. But you didn't end it." See, Travis read it 3 times before passing it to me. His hands were shaking. Think it's real? He asked. I nodded. Caleb's not done. He's licking his wounds. Probably watching from the woods, waiting to strike again. Let him watch, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. The truth was, we were exposed. We had no allies, no backup. If Caleb wanted to drag this into a longer war, he could, and part of me wondered if Travis had already made some other mistake I didn't know about. He had a way of attracting fire, then pretending he wasn't warm. That night, we sat around the kitchen table, the three of us. Marlene poured coffee none of us touched. We can't keep living like this, she said finally. I looked at Travis. Then maybe you tell me the rest of it. He didn't meet my eyes. I took more than cash, he admitted. There was a ledger. Marlene brought me lunch most days. She talked more now, about my dad, about the early years when the Kolbecks still had neighbors who smiled at them. She said I reminded her of Hank. I didn't know how to feel about that. At night, I slept in the room I'd grown up in. The wallpaper was faded, the mattress stiff, but the nightmares weren't as sharp. The gun stayed within reach, but it didn't feel like a lifeline anymore. Just a precaution. We didn't hear from the Beckers. No more letters. No more trucks. I'd like to think the fire taught them something, that fear cuts both ways. But maybe they were just waiting for us to make the next mistake. Either way, I wasn't going anywhere. One morning, I found the old Kolbeck sign buried under a tarp in the shed. The lettering was chipped, but it still read, Kolbeck Family Farm, EST 1948. I stood it back up at the edge of the property, not because I believed in legacy, but because I believed in starting over. Even here, especially here, the land remembers everything, the good, the bad, the blood. But if you listen close enough, if you stay long enough, it might just give you a second chance. I came back thinking I was here to help my cousin, but maybe I was here to help myself, and what remains now isn't just land and broken wood, it's me, still standing, finally whole. If this story pulled you in. If you felt the cold wind on the Kolbeck farm and the fire of old revenge burning through the trees, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this one. I drop gripping, emotional tales every week, true crime, family betrayals, rural secrets, and everything in between. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. And if you've got your own story of family, revenge, or secrets buried deep, share it in the comments below. I'm listening.